The gunshot came 17 seconds after the knock. A hotel employee had walked down the corridor of the 28th floor, with nothing more threatening than an overdue bill. He knocked. And then, the shot. He didn't go in. He left. 15 minutes passed before he returned with the head of security. When they finally opened the door, they smelled it before they saw anything. Gunpowder. Sharp, and chemical, in the enclosed space. The curtains drifted in the open window. And on the bed lay a young woman. Shot once. Through the forehead. A pistol still in her hand. It looked like suicide. But detectives who examined this room would spend the next 3 decades, trying to explain why almost nothing else did. She had no name. No past. No country. No one who came looking. She was buried in an anonymous grave in Oslo, and the world moved on. But the question never went away. Who was the woman in room 2805? The Oslo Plaza Hotel was not just a hotel. In 1995, it was the tallest building in Norway. It hosted presidents, rock stars. Secret diplomatic negotiations between Israel and Palestine had taken place within its walls. It was also the kind of place where you could disappear. She checked in on Wednesday evening, May 29, 1995, with the name Jennifer Fairgate. Belgian police would confirm within days of her death, that name belonged to nobody. The address she provided: Rue de la Stade 148, Berlin, Belgium, does not exist. The postal code is wrong for the town. The phone number has the wrong area code. And the company she listed as her employer, Service, also, doesn't exist. Every detail on that registration card was false. She paid cash. She carried no credit card. No identification of any kind. No passport. She also registered a companion. Someone called Lois Fairgate. A second room key was cut. But Lois Fairgate left almost no trace in the investigation. One receptionist remembered seeing her with a dark-haired man at check-in, roughly 185 centimeters, mid to late 30s. Another wasn't sure. A bottle of men's cologne was found in the room. The only fingerprint on that bottle belonged to Jennifer. Whoever Lois was, he was gone before the end. In 1995, the Oslo Plaza used electronic key card locks. Every entry was logged, time-stamped. Investigators pulled the records for room 2805. What they found was strange. On Thursday morning at 8:34 a.m., the key card was used. A hotel cleaner entered the room that afternoon. She confirmed the room was empty. No guest, no luggage visible, the bed used but otherwise undisturbed. The next entry logged was Friday at 8:50 a.m. That means the room sat empty for somewhere between 20 and 24 hours. On Friday evening at 8:06 p.m., she ordered room service. The food arrived 17 minutes later. The attendant who brought it noticed something immediately. The room looked untouched. The bed was still perfectly made. It didn't look like anyone had slept in it. She ate. She sat in a tidy room that looked like no one lived there. 22 hours later, she was dead. The room held almost nothing personal. No purse. No toiletries. Not a single item of hygiene. Only upper body clothing. Several sweaters, and trench coats. All in muted, interchangeable colors. And every label had been cut out. Here is what makes this detail even more unsettling. Staff who had been in the room before her death described a suitcase, a pair of elegant shoes, a long dark skirt, a woman who had seemed composed, put together, like someone with luggage and a plan. By the time security opened the door that Saturday evening, all of it had vanished. What hadn't vanished was an attaché case. Inside, dozens of 9mm cartridges. Ammunition. For a weapon she supposedly brought with her, for the sole purpose of ending her own life. The weapon was a Browning high-power 9mm, military grade. And someone had taken considerable care to destroy its identity. The serial numbers, burned off with acid. No recoverable markings. No traceable origin. No fingerprints on the weapon. Now, here is the detail that forensic analysts have returned to again and again. The way she was holding the gun. When the body was found, the pistol was in her right hand, but the grip was reversed. Her thumb was on the trigger. Her other fingers were curled around the back of the grip. The part that normally rests in your palm. It is one of the most awkward ways a human hand can hold a firearm. Biomechanically, counterintuitive. And her right hand, the one holding the weapon, had no blood on it. No gunshot residue. The absence of gunshot residue on a hand that allegedly fired a contact shot to the head is significant. It doesn't necessarily prove murder. Transfer can be imperfect. But combined with everything else in this room, it adds to a picture that does not sit comfortably. There was also a second bullet hole. Through a pillow. Down through the mattress. Into the concrete below. 2 shots fired in room 2805. One before, and one after. Here is the detail investigators noted about that first bullet. The soot marks, the muzzle fouling, were on the underside of the pillow. Which means, the pillow had been flipped after the first shot was fired. Someone turned that pillow over. Everything about Jennifer Fairgate had been stripped of identity. Her clothing labels. Her documents. The serial numbers on her weapon. Everything, except one thing. On her left wrist, she wore a Citizen Aquiland. Model CQ 1021-50. It is not a fashion watch. It is not something a 21-year-old Belgian woman would typically wear with a trench coat to a luxury Oslo hotel. It is a dive watch. Built for professional underwater use. Depth gauge. Analog and digital functions. This specific model was used by Special Operations maritime units across Europe. The British Special Boat Service wore them. So did the Danish Frogmen Corps. Inside the watch, 3 Swiss-made batteries, produced in late 1994. Each battery had been hand-engraved, with the same inscription. W. 395. A watchmaker's notation. Likely indicating March 1995, 3 months before her death, someone with the initial W replaced the batteries in this watch. The watchmaker with the initial W was never identified. She removed everything that could identify her. Everything. But she kept the watch on her wrist. Either it carried no identifying information she was aware of, or she simply couldn't bring herself to take it off. Her fingerprints were not in Interpol's database. Nobody reported her missing. Not a single person came forward to say, "I knew her." In the autumn of 2016, 21 years after the shooting, Jennifer Fairgate was exhumed. The results offered a direction. She was younger than they thought. Approximately 24 years old. And her genetic ancestry pointed toward Germany. This is what we have. After nearly 30 years. A height. A weight. 2 languages. A direction on a map. And a watch. 3 theories have dominated this case for 3 decades. The first is the simplest. She came to Oslo to die. A woman who wanted to vanish completely. The police accepted it in 1995 and closed the file. But the forensics don't cooperate. The reversed grip. The missing residue. The flipped pillow. The second theory points toward organized crime. The ammunition. The acid-scarred weapon. Consistent with criminal networks. And then, there's the third theory. Former Norwegian intelligence officer Ola Kaldager was direct. Jennifer Fairgate displayed the hallmarks of a trained operative. The alias. The stripped clothing. The hotel used as an operational base. The 20-hour absence. A death, staged. To look like something it wasn't. The case remains open. Unresolved. Unfinished. A puzzle missing its center. A life, without a past. A death, without a clear cause. And a question that refuses to fade. Who was Jennifer Fairgate?